Yeah, I know this week was entirely about Raja Jackson and how he's basically a feral animal and how some people, for some reason, are defending him. But again, that's a topic for an entirely different video. If you guys want me to cover it, I'll be more than happy to. But I'm kind of burnt out. But regardless, I'm going to be talking about the fight announcements that were announced during all of this fiasco because if Raja Jackson didn't do what he did, I think some of these fights would be making more headlines. You know, we got some sleeper bangers over here. I'm not necessarily going to cover every single fight that's been announced, alright? I'm not really covering, like, all the fighters that nobody cares about, alright? All the fighters that only fight in the Apex or somewhat. So I'm not really going to cover every single match, but I'm going to cover every single fight that's been announced that I think it's going to be huge because some of these fights there are some sort of title implications on the line, and either that or some like big name matchup for like the winner of these potential fights in the future. So I'm very excited to be talking about all of these fights, regardless. Now, the first fight I'm going to be talking about: Brandon Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira. The winner of this will probably get the following title shot for the flyweight division right after Joshua Van fights Alexander Pantoja. Unless Joshua Van beats Alexander Pantoja and Pantoja gets an immediate rematch, right? These guys, I think I've been wanting to see fight each other for the longest time because I was really interested in seeing how Brandon Moreno would do in a lot of these scrambles. Right, I understand he's fought Figgy. All right, his jujitsu is actually really good, but it's been a while since I've really seen Brandon Moreno fight like an elite level grappler. All right, I know he fought Pantoja, but Pantoja didn't really grapple much in their fights. So I'm actually interested to see someone who can potentially take down Brandon Moreno and someone who can actually potentially submit Brandon Moreno. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but it is a possibility. So I'm interested to see how that will play out in this fight. Now, I'm going to go with Tatsuro Taira in this fight, and mostly because of what he's shown in his previous fight. I know he was against Hyunsung Park on short notice, and right now Hyunsung Park isn't exactly someone who's near the level of a Brandon Moreno at this point in his career, but Tatsuro Taira's striking looks much improved. And that was like the one big major weakness that Tatsuro Taira had in his game. Like, defensively, Tatsuro Taira really didn't understand distance, which is how Brandon Moreno was able to tune up Tatsuro Taira for a while. And I'm sorry, Brandon Rival was able to tune up Tatsuro Taira in their fight. But I think Tatsuro Taira's much improved since that fight. He dropped Hyunsung Park in the first round because Hyunsung Park, he was trying to keep distance, trying to find the right shot and right time to get in. And Tatsuro Taira was confident enough in his striking to just throw the right hand and not knock down Hyunsung Park in the first round. Alright. That tells me that Tatsuro Taira, although he's not like the best striker in the division, although like I'm not gonna necessarily say that he's gonna outstrike Brandon Moreno all of a sudden, I do think that Tatsuro Taira, his striking has improved enough to where he's not going to get butchered on the feet like in his previous fight with Brandon Rival. If this fight were to have taken place like last year, I would have said that Brandon Moreno wins this fight pretty comfortably. But now that Tatsuro Taira's striking defense has improved, and I don't really see Brandon Moreno really being able to butcher Tatsuro Taira on the feet, I'm gonna say that Tatsuro Taira is going to be able to win this fight by decision by implementing his takedowns, taking down Brandon Moreno, and controlling the back or just holding dominant positions for multiple rounds. Tatsuro Taira is gonna win this fight, probably 49-46 decision. Maybe Brandon Moreno can win this. I'm not exactly too sure at the moment. I will give you guys a more accurate prediction when UFC 323 comes. But for now, I'm going to say that Tatsuro Taira is going to win this fight. All right, now up next, we got Aaron Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez. All right, another potential title elimination bout. I think if Aaron Blanchfield wins this fight against Tracy Cortez, it shouldn't be denied that Aaron Blanchfield should be fighting for the UFC flyweight belt next. But you can also make that argument for Tracy Cortez as well because the UFC really like Tracy Cortez and they really want Tracy Cortez to potentially fight for a UFC belt soon. I'm gonna say, however, that Aaron Blanchfield's gonna win this fight because I see this as a very similar stylistic matchup where we got two scrappy women who primarily win their fights by using the jiu-jitsu and taking opponents down. The difference is I think Aaron Blanchfield's more aggressive, and I believe that Aaron Blanchfield's more impressive on the ground, and she has more options on the ground compared to Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez really hasn't got like a submission, whereas Aaron Blanchfield, like even though she hasn't got a submission in a while, like we know it's in her game. All right, just because she couldn't submit Rose Namajunas, all right, who in her prime was like one of the most touted grapplers in the 115 pound weight class. It doesn't mean that Aaron Blanchfield doesn't have a submission game. She's very dominant in terms of holding positions in the grappling and on the feet. I don't see Tracy Cortez having like the power or like the shot selection to where Aaron Blanchfield's gonna have to respect her. Like it's not a Manon Fiorot situation, right? Manon Fiorot was able to repeatedly catch Aaron Blanchfield with the right hook over and over again while stuffing the takedowns. And sure, maybe Tracy Cortez can stuff the takedowns of Aaron Blanchfield, but I don't really see Tracy Cortez having the striking to necessarily pick apart Aaron Blanchfield over the course of 3, maybe 5 rounds if this is like a co-main event or something along those lines. But yeah, either way, I don't really see Aaron Blanchfield just losing like how she lost to Manon Fiorot. And I don't really see Tracy Cortez having the shot selection to potentially punish Aaron Blanchfield, nor do I really see Tracy Cortez winning the grappling exchanges. So I'm going to go with Aaron Blanchfield to win this fight. Oh, it's on a pay per view, so it's going to be 3 rounds. Yeah, it's probably going to be 29-28 decision. Aaron Blanchfield probably going to get a takedown on Tracy Cortez at some point, and from there, she's going to be able to implement her grappling a lot more effectively than Tracy Cortez. And even on if this fight were to take place on the feet, I believe that Aaron Blanchfield is just going to be more aggressive than Tracy Cortez. So the judges will be accounting for that, and she's gonna look to win the rounds based on the optics. All right, now up next we got Alexander Hernandez versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. All right, the winner of this fight is probably gonna get a ranked opponent soon. Maybe not Carlos Diego Ferreira. I know he fought Grant Dawson recently and got absolutely mollywopped. So maybe Carlos Diego Ferreira is gonna need one more, and plus the UFC doesn't really like him. But if Alexander Hernandez is able to win this fight, I can see Hernandez fighting for a ranked opponent in a future fight. All right, I believe that this is a very approachable matchup for Hernandez right now because Carlos Diego Ferreira is 40 plus years old. All right, I'm not exactly sure, but he is very old. And although Carlos Diego Ferreira is really good, all right, there comes a time where like these 40-plus-year-old unks, all right, they just look washed in their next fight all of a sudden. All right, they can look amazing in one fight, like what Carlos Diego Ferreira did to Mateusz Rebecki. But in the next fight, he might look like complete dog shit. All right, it just happens. However, based on their skill sets, I'm gonna say that Carlos Diego Ferreira is gonna win this fight. All right, I believe Carlos Diego Ferreira. He's educated enough not to get knocked down in the first round, like what happened in the Chase Hooper fight. And I understand I picked Chase Hooper to beat Alexander Hernandez, so this might come off as a cope. All right, but I don't think Chase Hooper is nearly developed in the striking as Carlos Diego Ferreira. I think that's the difference. Carlos Diego Ferreira was able to go tit for tat with a lot of good level strikers in the lightweight division, like Michael Johnson, like Mateusz Rebecki, right? Carlos Diego Ferreira is known for going through wars. He's not easy to knock out. Like I know Gamrot did it, but outside of that, I can't really recall a time Diego Ferreira has been knocked out recently. And if this fight is to go to the later rounds, I know that Alexander Hernandez, he always has a weakness with his cardio. And Carlos Diego Ferreira, pushes a very hard pace, especially in the later rounds. So I'm gonna go with Carlos Diego Ferreira, possibly get a late round to finish. It's probably going to be a 29-28 decision, but right now I'm going to say that Carlos Diego Ferreira is going to beat Alexander Hernandez by surviving the first round and just either taking down Hernandez in the second and third or just putting the pressure on him and just teeing off on him in the second and third. And last but not least, we got Walter Walker versus Muhammad Usman. This is pretty obvious, right? Walter Walker should win. Now, Muhammad Usman stylistically is kind of a problem because I don't think Walter Walker is necessarily going to be able to get a takedown as easily as he did against his previous opponents. Because even though Muhammad Usman hasn't been able to show us elite level wrestling, he is still a wrestler, so I can imagine he's at least knows what he's doing when defending takedowns, as Walter Walker is like shooting in head first. However, the reason I'm gonna pick Walter Walker is because Muhammad Usman doesn't know what BJJ is. All right, I don't think he's ever seen a heel look in his life before, and even if he does, is like what 2 months of training, right? No, it's actually less than that. It's like 5-6 weeks from now. Right? Is 5-6 weeks of training from now really gonna make a difference with Muhammad Usman's heel look defense? Maybe, but I doubt it. Walter Walker has been able to consistently get heel look after heel look against every single fighter he's fought outside of Lucas Bresky. Walter Walker's gonna do what he does. All right, shoot a sloppy takedown with his head down in the canvas. And at some point, he's gonna get into Ashi and just snatch Muhammad Usman's heel. And plus, on the feet, I don't really rate Muhammad Usman. Is that to say that Walter Walker's gonna do that well on the feet? I doubt it. But I don't really see Muhammad Usman getting a first round knockout over Walter Walker. I don't really see Muhammad Usman being able to implement some sort of technical striking. Like, keep in mind, Muhammad Usman went life or death with Hamdi Abdel Wahab like not that long ago, and I don't rate Hamdi Abdel Wahab as like a good fighter. And also, Muhammad Usman has been losing a lot of fights before fighting Hamdi Abdel Wahab. So it's not like Muhammad Usman is like an elite level prospect to be out on the lookout for. If anything, I'm actually pretty confused as to why the UFC booked this. Because I thought that Walter Walker is going to get a jump up in competition after beating Kennedy Nzechukwu, but instead he's fighting a step down in competition in Muhammad Usman for some reason. But either way, because it's a step down in competition, because Muhammad Usman doesn't really know what BJJ is to the point where he can defend the heel hooks of Walter Walker, and also because I don't know, I just don't really rate Muhammad Usman in the first place. I'm gonna go with Walter Walker to get a heel hook submission by the second round. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so I can get this channel monetized. But other than that, though, leave a comment down below what you guys think about all these matchups, who you guys think are going to win these potential matchups, and also let me know, like, whether or not these are good matchups in the first place. But yeah, other than that, though, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Peace.